So in our 45 minutes together, so let me see. Am I sharing a screen with PowerPoint for everyone?
Yes.
Yep, okay. So there's a PowerPoint on the right side and then some browser over here. So the main goal, my main mission is to get us all set up in terms of the tools that we're going to need for, oh, admit, I got that one. And okay. So I want to get us all set up. It won't be so much a lecture as sort of just working through the exercises and sort of making sure that we have all the tools that we need for what's coming up in the rest of the day. So I guess in terms of the objectives, I will try and get across a basic understanding of virtual machines and terminal. I'll review some basic Linux commands, and then we want to become familiar with Atmosphere and the data store at Cyverse. And so you'll see that even though this is very much a workshop, I have sort of, and it's not intended to be a lecture, for those of you that took our intro course, I've couched it in terms of kind of reviewing some basic Linux commands. We did try to see if people registering all had Linux beforehand, but in case that's not true for you, I'll try and kind of give a bit of a review of those, although we won't spend a whole lot of time going into depth. So in terms of the outline, we'll talk about VMs and terminals, talk a little bit about file system navigation, reviewing, creating, copying, moving, deleting files, networking commands, and software installation and compression. And so as we review some of these things, we'll be executing a number of commands that we need to sort of set things up for today. So in terms of a virtual machine is essentially some kind of operating system that is self-contained and that we can access and use to do work for us. And so for those of you who took the course, we're kind of going to be extending that concept in that before in the course, we had a virtual machine that we had you all install on your own personal computers. And so we ran the virtual machine there. Here, we're going to be actually using a virtual machine provided to us by Cyverse. And so we'll be accessing it remotely. But it, again, has a number of preloaded components on it. So it's a nice sort of package for us to use and access. And the main way that we'll interface with that virtual machine is using a terminal. So the terminal is this textual interface where we sort of type in commands instead of pointing and clicking as we would in Windows or Mac in a graphical user interface context. And we're going to use this over the course of the day. It's also representative of how much of our data analysis and our interactions with data take place in the context of bioinformatics. So again, here, there are a number of reasons why we use the command line. It's particularly powerful. There's a lot of control that you have when you use the command line. You can integrate it with scripting and writing code. And it's very common in terms of manipulating and using large next generation sequencing data sets. So again, we'll be using the Cyverse platform. And in particular, we're going to use something called Atmosphere, as Susie mentioned. So let's start connecting to Cyverse. So if you go to https://cyverse.org. Oops, nope, don't want that. I will post that in the chat if you're not already there. So connect to Cyverse and click on Login up here. And I've already logged in. So if you haven't logged in, you may be prompted before you get here to include your email address and your password, which you hopefully had a chance to set up in the last few days. That may not, I realize that may not be true for all of you, particularly those that that maybe joined late. So hopefully we've all had a chance to log in here, and I'll kind of toggle between the PowerPoint and the browser here. Also, we had this note down here of using Chrome or Firefox web browsers. I've been using Safari as well, and that seems to have been working so far. I haven't run into any problems there yet. Maybe that's unwise. Maybe I should follow the note that I have on the slide. But within Chrome or Firefox and potentially Safari, you should be okay. All right, and so now within Cyverse, there are a number of different types of services. And so we want to focus on this one down here called Atmosphere. And you want to click on this button here that says Launch. So hopefully everyone can see that. So under My Services, there are these 4 panels, and we'll look at some of these other ones later today. But right now, we just want to focus on Atmosphere. And I want you to click Launch. Okay, and that should open up a new window for everyone. And if at any point it's not showing you what I'm showing you, just let one of us know. Okay, and so once you're here, so we've clicked Launch. I want you to click on up at the top bar here. So it says Cyverse in the top left, then Dashboard and Projects. Click on the Projects tab up here, please. And under Projects, you will, I mean, unless you're already a Power Cyverse user, you may just have one project like me, okay? And it'll be the same as your username on Cyverse. I'm going to click on my project that has my user ID name now, all right? And then it'll take me to this page here, right? And you probably won't have this test show up here, but I think if everything worked out, you should have this preloaded NMW2021, right? So if you're not seeing that, excellent, wonderful. Okay, so Rebecca is seeing that as well. Hopefully everyone else, if we had time to pre-register you and set that up for you, then hopefully you see that. So if I click on this now I'm clicking on the NMW 2021.
One thing real quick,
Yep.
just people should see active, like Adrian said that it's active. That's really important. So if you see something else there,
Right.
let us know.
Yeah. And so that was on the previous page. But even once you've clicked on that particular instance, that NMW 2021, it should still say under instance details, it should say active over here and have a nice happy green dot. If it says something else, as Susie mentioned, definitely let us know. Okay, so our next step here is we're going to click on this button down here that says Open Web Shell. Okay, so I'm on this instance page within my Powell project, the same username that I have. And there's this button down here says Open Web Shell. So try clicking on that. Again, this depends on it being active already. And when you click on that, it'll actually open a new window that's actually a terminal interface. Okay, so it should look something like what you're seeing over here now. So it'll say, welcome to Atmosphere, and it'll have your username at VM something, 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 and then a $sign, right? So if it's not getting you to this point, please raise a hand or send a message, or feel free to unmute if you're comfortable with that. So because we need to get here, this is where a lot of the exercises are going to take place today. All right, so while that's booting up, hopefully that's booting up for everyone. So here we are in the terminal. The other thing I wanted to highlight is in the, let's see, in the GitHub repository that I mentioned earlier. If you go to this section 2 baseline skills, which is what we're doing right now, the setup, you should have an updated version of the slides here if you want to follow along or look at them later. The other thing is this BTI BC bioinfo Unix command cheat sheet, which again, if you've taken the course recently, you hopefully still have a copy of it. And if not, you can just click here and then click on the download button, and that'll download to your computer a copy of this cheat sheet. And so this has a number of useful commands that we'll be using today. And so even if you're sort of really familiar with Unix, it can be always kind of a handy reference to have. All right, so the first section up here relates to navigation of the file system. And so I'm going to quickly kind of review the concept of the file system. Okay, so just to review the file system, again, in the terminal context, in the command line, the file system has sort of the same conceptual structure as these graphical folders that we like to click on in Windows or Mac, where you sort of click into a folder to see what's inside it, and then you can sort of go up levels in the hierarchy by sort of moving to the enclosing folder, if you will. So you can sort of move up and down in this hierarchy, sort of like a hierarchical tree structure. And that structure still exists in the terminal as well, only that it's represented in a textual format instead of these kind of icons of folders. And there are two particular directories that I want to highlight. One is your home directory, and that's often, that's sort of where you are once you log in. So right here, this tilde, you see the tilde $. So the tilde stands for your home directory. We actually won't be working in the home directory too much today, but that's something to be aware of. If you ever see that tilde, that's sort of where you are. The other is the root directory, and the root directory is represented by a simple slash, /. And so I will explain this. Well, we'll review that in a moment. But if you see this / here, it means that I'm in the root directory now. And so there are a couple of key commands that we want to review or make sure that we remember. So pwd is to see where you currently are in what directory you're in. And so instead of having a folder sort of structure or diagram or icons to see where I'm located in the file explorer, we use pwd. And so here I can see that I'm in a folder or a directory called /home/apowell. So I'm in a directory called apowell, my home directory, that's within the home directory, a directory called home. And that's within, it all starts at the root directory, okay? And again, so we saw these in the course as well. So ls lists whatever is inside the directory that you're currently in. So I can type ls here. Well, maybe I can type ls here. Right, okay, I have a few things in here. you might have 0 things in there, and that's okay. And then CD is to change your directory. So we change directory by typing CD and then giving the path to the directory that we want to go to. So if we want to change into the OPT directory and list the files that are in there, I would go CD/OPT. I could put a slash at the end. Okay, and you can see now I'm no longer in the tilde directory, I'm in the /opt directory. All right, and then if I want to list the files in there, I can type ls, or there are variations, ls -lh. We'll get it in a slightly different format. And I can see there are a number of programs and such that are in this OPT directory, right? Again, I'm moving fairly quickly because I'm assuming that you all have this, but the slides are there for your reference if this is new material for you as well. There are a number of shortcuts. You can use these asterisks as wildcards to list specific subsets of items. The one shortcut in particular that I want to highlight for today is using the up and down arrows to navigate command history. So if I'm at the command line and I press the up and down arrows, it'll show me all my previous commands, right? So that can be handy to sort of rerun a particularly lengthy command if there was a typo in it or something like that. So please use those arrows to make your lives easier. Again, there are lots of variations on CD. We won't spend much time on these, but if you want to CD into a specific directory, you would say CD desktop if you wanted to change into a desktop. You can use the double dot, which takes you into the parent directory of the one that you're currently in. So it moves you up a level. Again, CD / takes you into the root directory. CD by itself takes you to your home directory if you don't type anything else after CD. And CD- toggles you between your current directory and the previous directory that you were in. Okay. And then absolute and relative paths. Basically any path that starts with the root and gives you the whole path to a given directory is an absolute path. Most other things that depend on where you currently are relative paths. And again, you can use absolute and relative paths with both CD and ls and a host of other commands. There's a couple of commands I want to highlight here, in particular the CP command, which is to copy a file or a document. And so to copy, you say what you want to copy and then where you want to copy it to. Move has a similar structure, MV. And then RM removes a given file. You need to be very careful when using RM in the terminal because if something is gone, it's gone. So you have a lot of power when you delete things. As with files, we can also do the same with directories. So mkdir will let us make directory, rmdir remove directories. This will only work on an empty directory. If the directory has things in it, you need to use this -r for recursive. And that applies both to the remove command and the copy command if we're going to copy a directory. So now I need to get us started on setting up some data files. So I want us to, let's see if I can move this over or shrink this. Work through these commands here. And so I'm using some commands that we haven't gone over, but hopefully they'll be familiar to you. And to make this easier, I will actually copy these all into the chat, maybe. Actually, let's just grab them all. But let's work through them one at a time just to make sure these work. So the first one is this. So you can actually copy and paste these into your web browser. Normally, I do it by using the menu bar at the top where it says edit and I say paste, because some of the shortcuts don't work for me. Maybe they do in another browser. But so just include that first command, sudo apt install nsf common. You will need your password for Cyverse, which I wrote down here. And so include your password. And then it should install this NFS common for you. Then we're going to do an mkdir command. And I'm just going to work through these commands one at a time. If people get stuck or having trouble, let me know. So this is going to create a new directory off of the root called MNT. Now, I had actually gone through and done this before, so mine says it can't do it because the file exists. But for you, with your fresh new Atmosphere instance, it probably will do that for you. Then I'm going to move on and use this sudo mkdir /mnt/NMW2021 data. Okay. And then you need to do this one here. And we're going to, essentially what we're doing is we're mounting some data that we are then going to use during the rest of the workshop. Okay. And then once you've done that, you need to run this command, the cp-r command, sudo cp-r to scratch, and get that one running. And that one might take a good couple of minutes, in which time we'll sort of move on. Saren says, cannot stat. Okay, so the mount did not work, perhaps.
I would try doing an ls and then a space and a /mnt to make sure you actually have the directory there.
So first try ls/mnt, make sure that NMW2021 is present, and then maybe do NMW2021 data. And check that there's actually something called Botany 2020 NMG workshop in MNT NMW 2021 data. Does anyone, are people seeing this? Okay, so I'm getting some nodding. So that looks like, so Saren, yeah, okay, yeah. Maybe go back and try a few of these other steps. And so just to confirm, maybe people can give some virtual thumbs up or video thumbs up if they want on that the cp-r command, this one here, is running, right? Because this one will take a couple of minutes.
I think I'm, it's struggling with the fourth one, the fourth command down.
This one here, the sudo
saying,
mount.
Yeah, it's saying can't find in /etc/sf tab. Was that what someone else was wondering about?
Oh, people are seeing that.
Why?
Okay. I just ran this on the test instance. Right. Is anyone, so Has anyone gotten to this point that the CP-R is working? No. Okay.
David just said it's working for him.
CP-R is working for him. Right. Okay. Well, so let's see. Yeah, run mount command is giving the same error. So what is that error exactly?
It is mount storage.cybers. Blah blah blah. Rest of the file path can't find an etc. FS tab.
Right. And you're using sudo?
Yeah.
Can you paste that whole command into the chat just so I can think about that?
Yeah.
I will try.
The error message, I mean. And everyone was able to install the NFS common package.
Right. The first one is key too.
You can try running that again. Anyone that's having problems, it won't hurt anything if it was already installed.
And Hannah's still having trouble on getting the Atmosphere terminal open. Right.
I think we have a workaround for that one.
Yeah. So I'll restore everything around this minute. Right. So for Hannah, I'll just highlight the networking commands. And one thing that you can try if you can SSH separately is if you go to the Cyverse page with the instance, you'll see that it says under instance details, status, activity, size, IP address. You can actually SSH directly to that IP address using a terminal. So not through the Atmosphere web interface, okay? So that might be one thing to try. Does that make sense? So you would use so if you would, in this case, I have an example up here. I said SSH Powell, so my user ID from Atmosphere, and then at the IP address here. Oh, not really, but I can Google it. Yeah.
I've just noticed, sorry, this is separate, sorry, that after I did the sudo adapt install nf common, it looked like it'd done it, but then it says this message, nf common is already the newest version, 0 upgraded, 0 newly installed, 0 to remove, and 10 not upgraded. Has anyone else had that? Would that be why it might be?
That sounds okay to me. I think that means that it probably worked the first time, I think, okay. If it's on the current version. Yeah, David says, should there be a space? Yes, there should be a space. Hopefully that's, did I make a mess there? Ah, right, okay, that's because of this. So this command here, can I, sorry, I'm showing the, I shouldn't show the chat, I guess. Just to be clear, I posted it in, if you were copying it from the chat, this is all one command. Okay, so in the chat, it may have come out on 2 different lines. So it looks like it separated storage from this part. So that's all one item. And then there's a space between those two. And then we follow with /nmt NMW2021 data. All right. So that's important. I'm just checking to see if other things I pasted in don't look right. So yeah, just check the PowerPoint version that I have up here in terms of what those commands should look like. Armando, yeah.
Starting to work for people.
Yeah. In my case, I did all of those things, and every time I click enter, it seems like immediately goes to the next line. Like nothing is happening, and then I'm just in the next to last one, the sudo cp r, and then I just clicked enter, and nothing is happening. So it just went to a black line. Like
that's good. That's good. I think that's good. That means that everything is happening.
Okay.
Yes.
Because it's been like that for a while.
Yeah, that's okay. That's going to take a few minutes. That's why I want to get people.
Don't touch it.
Yeah, I want to get people to that point. So that's exactly what Armando described is exactly what we want. So we want that CP command to be running, and it means you won't have control of your command line because it will be running that process. So you won't be able to type new commands for a few minutes. Okay.
Thanks.
So yeah, it looks like that might have been the problem for some people. Sorry, I should have looked at what I was pasting into the chat.
Yeah, the space has made it work for me.
The space. Okay, excellent. Yeah, okay. So yeah, just I'll try and describe some of the commands a little bit more in depth to make sure that the spaces are okay. Hannah's still having some trouble. SSH connect IP. It looks like I'm not sure that your instance is in a happy place, unfortunately. That might be a Cyverse question or setup, or we might need to set up a new instance. I don't know, Susie or Jing, could you maybe chat with Hannah or Cyverse people?
Yeah, I'll let some folks there know that we're having problems with that one. I don't know if there's something.
Yeah.
It just might not be instant since it's so early there.
Right. Okay. So we're gonna have to, So we're gonna have to come back to this sudo chown. Please post in your comments when that cp-r command is done for you. That is to say, when you get back your command line, when your cursor is now then at $$ again. We do have a couple of other installation steps to do. So we need to get that one done first. I'll go through some of these other aspects as review, and then hopefully before Fei Wei starts his next section, we can run some of those additional installation steps. I think one of them will also take a little bit of time, but I'll work through them. So the networking commands are in the bottom right panel. And so that was what I was mentioning in terms of SSHing as well. So this is sort of a possibility if you want to connect to your Atmosphere VM. So using this IP address, so if I go back to my Atmosphere instance, you'll see down here, there is an IP address associated with this instance. And so if I wanted to access it through a terminal through, I'm on a Mac, so if I have the terminal app, I can just open it and connect that way as well using this SSH command. So SSH, my username, and then the server address. Okay. And so that's an alternative to interacting with the web shell. I'll just talk through some of this stuff, and hopefully the CP command will wrap up in a few minutes. So the other thing I wanted to point out is we're mounting the data and sort of copying it over onto a directory called Scratch, which is where you have most of your space that you can use on your virtual machine. But if there was ever some data set that you wanted to work with that's a community data set on Cyverse, you can actually go to the discovery environment. And I won't actually work through this here, but this is more for your reference. If you go to the discovery environment, you'll see all these various projects and publicly shared data sets. And you can actually, by clicking on these 3 dots over on the side, you can copy the paths. And by using I commands, you can actually kind of port that data into your Atmosphere VM as well to conduct analyses there. So we're using this for today's exercises, but it's something that you can use for other purposes as well, any type of project where you have some data set that you're interested in. And so these are some of the commands that you would use to do that. The link is up here, so we're not going to spend any time going through this, but for your reference, I wanted to include that. So this down here would be another way of getting the data that we're currently obtaining through this CP-R. We're using the CP command because it will be a lot faster for our purposes. But this would have been another way that you could have gotten the same data set through the publicly accessible community data. The bottom left panel has some compression commands just to be aware of and remind yourselves of. So the tar command is especially important often when installing different programs that we're downloading. And there's different installation commands, apt-get install, aptitude install. These are all things for installing particular programs. And in that connection, we do have a couple of additional programs that we need to install into our virtual machine. However, I'm going to hold off there for a few minutes and wait to see. We need that CP command to finish first, I think. So let me know if anyone has completed that command, and then we'll come back to these additional installation steps once that's done. So the first thing we'll do is we might need to change ownership, so using this command. So just let me know once people have gotten to that point.